Welcome to the Nutritionist podcast. This is Diego from NutriAdmin, and I am recording from London, and I'll be your host for today. In today's episode, we have a guest that knows the walls of both nutrition and marketing. This is Anna Reisdorf. Anna is on a mission to help wellness brands rank on the first page of Google with evidence-based marketing strategies and content created by experts. Anna specializes in content strategy and creation. She's the founder of Reisdorf Writing Service. Sorry if I'm butchering your surname.
You got it. Most people are really confused.
Yeah. So Anna is a health and nutrition marketing agency. She runs a health and nutrition marketing agency, and she's been running it for 6 years, and also holds a master's degree in clinical nutrition from Central Michigan University. Welcome to the podcast, Anna. Where are you joining us from today?
Thank you. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice. Would you be able to tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. So I've been a registered dietitian for 15 years now, and I have held a lot of different roles in nutrition. I kind of bounced around a lot at the beginning of my career. It seemed like nothing was ever really a fit. I did weight management, worked in clinical, taught at university, did all sorts of things. And then in 2012, I sort of had a little, I don't know, quarter life crisis or something. And my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, no.
And she was from Brazil. So she wanted to go to Brazil to get her treatment for her cancer, to be near her family and that kind of stuff. And so I took family medical leave from my job, and I went down there and to help her out. And then during that time, I connected with another dietitian who was traveling the world and writing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, like, you can make money as a dietitian with writing? And so while I was there, I got on this website that doesn't really exist anymore. And they were wanting like licensed writers, doctors, dietitians, whatever. And I applied and I got in, and I would write 8 articles a day for $25
Wow.
each.
Okay.
And I was so happy. And it was like, I couldn't believe it. So that was kind of when I started, and then it was sort of a side gig for a while. And in 2018, we moved here to Nashville, and I just decided, like, this is it. And that's when I brought on my team, and that's when the business just exploded.
That's amazing. And I mean, you touch upon many interesting points. One of it is that there's so many opportunities nowadays online, and a lot of the people that are trained in the health subjects in university and schools, I guess they maybe enter with a more traditional approach, and they think, oh, I'll just be a doctor and work in a hospital, or I'll be a dietitian and be in a clinic. And some of those options, many of them are still there, but there are other options out there that people are not necessarily aware of. And I also find that, well, you mentioned the qualified part, because there are many writers out there, but not all of them are experts on the topic. And if you do have the relevant certifications and you're an expert on what you're talking about, then I would imagine the opportunities are far greater.
Yeah. And especially 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, Google decided that all the health related information really needed to be written by experts. And so that's what they pushed, to the top. It was like a big update, and actually a lot of websites who were a little bit on the like shadier side really got demoted at that time. And so I think that since then the demand is like through the roof for expert writers.
Yeah. And I would imagine, Google has a lot of data and very sophisticated algorithms that can very easily detect whether the person that is writing is an authority in the topic. So there's no way really to cheat the algorithm. And if you are, many of the people that listen to us are nutritionists, dietitians, they have a degree, so they're the kind of person that can actually benefit from this sort of updates. They will no longer have to compete with, I guess, people that are not experts in the topic. And so ultimately this should be beneficial for them and beneficial for the consumers, because they get to read proper advice instead of something that is questionable, and they can have a bit of a higher confidence that what they're reading online on the internet is actually legitimate information, I guess.
Right. And I mean, it's good for everybody and really beneficial and profitable for us as dietitians who want to read.
I see. So yeah, so I was gonna ask you why you made the pivot on, but I guess you've already answered. Like I guess you got exposed to writing then, and it just became clear that this was your calling. And I mean, you've been doing it for years, so I guess you must really enjoy it.
So really, for me, I'm not a very good employee. I don't like showing up at a specific time. I want to leave when I want to leave. I want to do things how I want to do them. So like working for somebody else was never like a very good fit for me. And then I felt like the traditional roles, like there was a salary max that you could really achieve. Like the only way that you're going to make more is by owning your own business. And then I didn't really want to do like private practice because I'm a little bit of an introvert and I don't want to talk to people all day. Like writing was like the right thing for me because I could make my own hours, do things my way. And, you know, and the sky's the limit on my income is like, I can make as much as I want. It's really up to me.
Nice. Yeah. And I mean, this, I think a lot of the members in the audience can relate to, because many of them, they also have a nutrition background, and many of them will open up businesses of different sorts. So some of them go for private practice, but that's not the only option. Some people will start a, let's say, recipe subscription service box, and or they produce content, or they grow a social audience, and then they can partner with brands. So there are many options out there for people. And yeah, I guess it's important that, I guess when you finish school in university, you have many options out there, and it can make sense to have a bit of a sampling period, I guess, where you try different options until you find what resonates. So I guess, nice, good. I'm glad to hear. So I'd like to ask you then, so why do you think it's important that nutrition and wellness brands do some marketing?
I mean, marketing is how you're going to make sales, you know, and I think that everybody, that's why they start a business at the end of the day is to make money and, you know, increases awareness about your brand. And some brands are really good at creating like communities around their products and things like that. So I think it's all part of the essentials for having a successful business.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think that most of the people, I guess, that come out of a wellness or health course, they don't really learn marketing in a health course, right? So it's, I guess, either you have to do some other course or find some other way for you to acquire that knowledge, or partner up with somebody that can help you. Because how did you learn your marketing skills?
Self-taught. Like I really, you know, there's a few clients that I work for that are large marketing agencies. And so they outsource their clients and their work to me, and I just observe what they do and how they do it. And then through different classes, and I learn about SEO through different courses that I've taken and things like that. But it's really straight up experience. There was, you know, listening to podcasts and just like absorbing all of the information. And, you know, it's still an ongoing learning curve. You know, you things change quickly with the internet and what's hot, what's not, and this and that. So it's still something you have to keep on top of, but really it's totally self-taught, just the interest and working in the field. But I agree with you that unfortunately, at least registered dietitians really aren't taught anything about even business management or marketing or anything like that. And I know we have a lot of topics that we have to cover at school, but I think it's a disservice to some extent.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it resonates with me as well, because, well, in my case, I learned science, I did physics in university, then I learned some software, and I had to learn all the marketing on my own as well. And it's taken years and years, and I still have so much to learn. And there has been a lot of trial and error and a lot of trying some strategies. They don't really work until I find something. I mean, funnily enough, one of the best strategies that works for us, for our business NutriAdmin, is also SEO, which I think is what you work with. So, I mean, honestly, if I went now back to square one, I would have considered perhaps either hiring somebody or working with somebody or partnering up with somebody that had this knowledge, because just learning it all on my own has taken so long, and there are only so many things you can specialize in. So that's good. So I see. So I guess could you tell us what kind of brands and businesses do you normally work with?
The majority of our clients are supplement brands, and then we have a few sort of general health information websites, some food, baby formula, like anything related to health and nutrition and food. But yeah, supplements is a big money maker for us.
Makes sense. And what kind of content have you seen work well over the years for these particular brands and businesses? Does the format matter at all?
It changes all the time. A lot of these brands produce blog content, and I think it depends on the amount of blog content that they're producing. I have found that a lot of them want to just write these like short 500 word articles, and I feel like that's not really worth it at all. So because I started seeing that and that like kind of request, we moved into offering more strategy for them. And so we will look more deeply at like who their competitors are and what kind of content they're producing and that kind of stuff. And so then we can create like more in-depth pieces, which is really what Google wants in this sort of busy space. But now a lot of them are moving more towards video because of TikTok and all of these things. So we did bring on somebody that can do recipe videos and that kind of stuff. So it just sort of depends on the brand a little bit.
Yeah, no, but I totally agree with the in-depth part, because I feel like when people hear about SEO, I feel, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you probably have more knowledge than me on this, but I think that there used to be a couple of strategies that used to work in the past, such as short articles, just stuffing your articles with keywords, and these sort of, some people call them black hat techniques. And I mean, Google now has such a powerful algorithm that they can very easily detect if you're trying to game the system and just completely penalize you. And I think that, yeah, what you really want to do is essentially, Google has the search, they have Android, Google Chrome, and a variety of other ways of collecting data. And they know when somebody's reading an article, if they're spending time in the article, if they are engaging with it, if they're coming back to the website, and those signals tell Google that this is a good article. And they will, at the end of the day, what they want to do is to show the most relevant article to the right people, because yeah, anytime you check a site and you leave, they are also losing revenue. So yeah, and I've tried in the past publishing articles myself, and I've tried maybe publishing 10 short articles and they got absolutely no traction. And then I spent a day making a really, really good one, and that one got more traffic than the next 50 articles combined, right? So the rewards are disproportionate. So yeah, completely agree.
I totally agree with you. Like, you're not really going to get a lot of traction on short articles anymore. It may be in a different niche, something that's not so saturated with information, but health, no way. And so I think that might be shifting a little bit, but we're still getting quite a lot of requests for that. So
yeah, I guess, yeah, that's why you need somebody that really has the day-to-day experience, because you're working on it on a regular basis, so you know what's working and what's not, and you have some very clear metrics as well, I guess, to check if something is working. You can see if it's ranking, you can see the bounce rate, I guess, how many people are coming and leaving immediately, or what was the average reading time, etc. So do you do any sort of can you tell the listeners about, I guess, you do some keyword research as well to check what keywords to target? Is that something you do?
Yes, so that's part of our content strategy that we do. So we'll come up with what topics we want to cover, and then the second step of that is finding the right keywords and figuring out what that brand could possibly rank for, and then creating articles around those keywords and those topics. So that's the whole process.
I see.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's amazing because I guess um, there's something magical about your publishing these articles, and Google has, I guess, an element of organic reach. So even if you're someone new that doesn't have an audience, if you start to produce quality content, it's the same in many other platforms. If you start making videos on YouTube, videos on TikTok, articles to publish, if they're good and the algorithm shows that they drive engagement, then they will be shown to more and more people. And even if you started from zero, you can grow this way. So
Right.
have you seen, do you have some perhaps some success stories that you want to share from some of your clients so that we can know from start to end how the projects went?
Sure. So there's one that I've been obsessed with this year. It's
Sure.
a colleague, actually.
Mm,
She specializes in the cardiology space. So she
mhm,
sees people with pretty significant heart conditions and that kind of thing. We've only been doing 2 articles a month, but
mhm.
with the keyword research and finding those higher volume keywords and that kind of stuff, we took her site from like 20 page views a month to over 2,500 in just 3 months.
Oh my God.
And that's just 2 articles per month.
Wow.
And I like, she's on page 1 for so many high ranking keywords now, like, does dehydration cause high blood pressure? She's like on
Wow.
the 3rd spot. That's like a high volume keyword. And so it's a combination of obviously her expertise, because her
Mhm,
name
mhm.
is on the articles. It's a ghostwriting thing, but also our SEO research and, like, us working together to develop those topics. And so every day I check hers because I'm just so, like, it's so awesome to just watch it grow in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it must be
You
so
know, and so
rewarding. And
yes.
it's almost a crime when you have somebody that's an expert on a particular topic, and especially in health, somebody that could be basically saving lives and improving the health of people, and they have this knowledge and they're just not visible on the web. People are searching those things. People are searching, how can I fix this particular problem? And there's somebody there that could help them, and they cannot find them. So I guess you're in a way making these people visible to the relevant audience that is already searching for terms. Because yeah,
Right.
I would imagine a lot of people make, I mean, medical kind of searches all the time, such as, what does it mean if I have these spots in here, or why do I feel this stomachache after I eat this particular ingredient? Or I mean, um, yeah, and 2 articles a month. Wow, I'm shocked. I thought you would be publishing one every day.
No, I mean, it's literally 2 a month. We've been doing it. The first one probably got published in May, and it's
Mhm.
just been through the roof. So it
Amazing.
doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be the right thing and
Mhm.
targeted towards the right keyword, and then written in a high quality way by a person who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I think this is a positive message as well, because I feel like a lot of people that don't work in sales and marketing perhaps think that sales and marketing are a bit of a slimy thing where you have to trick people or use some questionable tactics. And I mean, I advocate for not doing it that way. I don't even think it's that effective. If you're an expert and you know what you're talking about, you just have to find the right format, have the right tools, the right help, so that your message just resonates with the right people. And yeah, you don't have to do any sort of trickery. So yeah, hopefully this can encourage some people that kind of shy away from this world to consider it more. Because at the end of the day, if you are getting more traffic and you're getting more customers, you can continue to live this lifestyle, and you can help more people, so everybody wins.
Right. Everybody, I mean, it doesn't, if you have the right tools and you have the right understanding, it doesn't take a lot to
Mhm.
get some traction.
Makes sense. So okay, so I'd be curious then to know, so how do you apply your own knowledge to promote your own business? Because it's a transferable skill. You can could you have, maybe you can share a couple of examples of content you've created to promote your own business?
Um, there's been a few different things that we've done, a few articles, and it's actually something that it's an ongoing process, because when you're a writer, you tend to write for other people and not for
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
I was actually when we get off this call, I was actually going to ask my team if maybe they wanted to write some more articles for my blog.
All right.
But there's been a few, like there's an article that we have about recipe creation, which is something that we offer. And that one seems to rank, pretty well. And bring in quite a bit of traffic onto my site. And then just a personal blog that I wrote about how I became a freelance nutrition writer. And so that puts me at the top of Google searches when somebody searches nutrition writer. So we need to do the strategy that we've been doing for our clients. We need to do for ourselves as well. But in terms of marketing my own business, I get quite a bit of business from LinkedIn, which is, I think, just where people who are looking for, business contacts are looking for. And then I still do some degree of cold outreach to brands. So it's a combination of like LinkedIn and then me just emailing people and people reaching out. It just has to be like multiple.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And we follow the same strategy actually for our business for NutriAdmin. So we make software for the dietitians, and we have spent time in SEO so that we rank when people search for the product. And we also, LinkedIn, as you say, can be useful to find, you can filter people by profession, right? So if if your target customer is a particular profession, you can find them this way. And then I guess all of these build upon each other, because then let's say more people find you, you get some happy customers, then you get some referrals, some reviews, and it can all be growing up on each other. But I think the SEO is a very key first step, because without the SEO, if people don't know you exist, then they cannot refer you to friends. They cannot leave your review, right? So they first have to find you before anything else can happen. So yeah, sounds like a very sensible approach. So then moving on to the next question, I'd be interested to know, so how does your typical relationship with one of the brands you work with look like then? You give them occasional advice, or you take a more hands-on approach, you create all of the content on their behalf, or how will it work?
It depends on the client. So there are some very large brands that we work with that are very established, well-known brands. They have huge marketing teams. And so they don't, they have 20 people in their marketing department. Like they don't really need my, day-to-day insight so much. So that sort of relationship, it would be just more like they develop the topics, they develop the keywords, they do all of that. And then we just write the content. And then they're allowed to use like our licenses. And then I have some other clients that are more starting and they're looking to outsource their marketing because they don't have the money to bring on a huge department just yet. So then that would be more the situation where we do the strategy, we decide the topics, we figure out the keywords, and then we write the articles as well, or whatever the content might be. So it just varies. I like both. It doesn't require a whole lot of thinking for somebody to just hand you everything and you just write the article or write the content, whatever it might be. But then it's been fun to do more of the strategy. This is something that we just started doing more this year. And it's more creative, and writing can be like kind of boring every day. It's like just sit there and write. And this is like my team has been able to work together to get more creative with these strategies and throw out different ideas. And I think that that's been a great addition to kind of our offering. So
it's and I mean, it sounds amazing, because as you say, even if you have all the ideas in your mind, if you know the keywords, you know the topics, it does take a lot of effort and time to write the articles, especially you want to make them in depth, you want to make them really good quality. And I've written some articles that have ranked very well, and it took me the whole day to make them. I had to do research, put relevant links, and those are the ones that perform best, right? So if somebody else is a health brand, perhaps writing is not their specialty or is not the best thing they can do, so it makes sense that they would outsource this to a professional. Because if you're practicing, if you have a team, if you are doing this on a regular basis, you can probably do higher quality job in fraction of the time at a fraction of the cost, and they can instead use this time and resources to do something else. So yeah,
other things, and writing takes quite a bit of time, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Nice. Finally, my sister is a professional writer actually as well, and it's she writes for a tech company, and yeah, there's just so many articles that the company needs, and they bring in a lot of customers and traffic, but they need a professional to do it on a regular basis because it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'd like to ask you next. So what advice would you give to a nutritionist or a wellness brand that has never done any marketing before? So they're just literally starting out and they have 0 followers in social media, no website even. So what would be like the first couple of things you would recommend to get started?
Always, I think the best advice is to not get overwhelmed and think you have to do all the things on the first day. Like people think they need Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, a website, like everything. I think it's better if you pick one thing where your customers might be. So it would depend on what your goal is. You know, if you're a writer and you want to like sell your writing to other brands, then LinkedIn would probably be a great place. If you're looking to connect with people for a private practice, maybe it's Instagram or TikTok or something like that. It just depends. But I would pick one thing and get it moving and then move on to the next thing, because there's a lot of like shiny objects out there, like, oh, I should do this. And then there's always a new social media platform. I mean, whatever. And then you can like, I do think a website is important. And I know that it can be quite expensive to get a good, you know, website up. But I think that investing a little bit in getting a nice website up and then a handful of well-written blog posts in your niche that allow people to find you through SEO and through Google. I mean, it is a little bit of investment up front, but it's going to just keep paying without you doing anything, you know, over a period of time. Whereas social media, you have to stay doing stuff constantly or else everyone forgets that you're there. But a website lives, you know,
100%.
It can be scary because I mean, you're going to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a good website, and then, you know, from there to do the blogs and everything, if you want to outsource them, it can be quite an investment, but I think it'll pay off in the long term.
100%. I can vouch for this because this is literally what we have done with our own business, and we started 6 years ago. And initially, we tried a couple of approaches, and we determined that SEO was best for us. We invested most of our time and energy on this, and only in the last year or so we have put any attention in social media, and we have been doing well just with this channel where we specialized. So I guess until you max out a particular channel, you don't really have to move on to other ones, or well, I guess unless you have the bandwidth or interest, but yeah, you touched upon the point. It's overwhelming the amount of options out there, and you don't have to be a master of them all. You can start with one that works well, and I guess evergreen content that you can produce. We have some articles in our own website that were written 5 years ago, and still they bring in traffic. So you're planting this tree that is going to give you fruit for decades to come. So I agree completely.
Yeah, but you know, the SEO thing also, people need to understand it's sort of a long game. Like you're not going to write an article this month and then rank for it, you know, page 1 next month. It's going to take 3-6 months for that content to start seeing some traffic. So, you know, it's hard to be like, I'll make $10,000, I'll invest $10,000 today, and then I'll see this come back in a year. Like that's scary.
Unless it's the client you mentioned earlier that you got 100 times the traffic in 3 months. That's impressive. That can happen, but I guess most people, it will take a while. The thing is that, I mean, people maybe underestimate just the power of having this sort of passively generating traffic, because as you said, something like social media, you need to be constantly working on it, and the best you can do if you're very successful is to get to a level where you can hire somebody else to help you out, maybe, but at no point you can stop producing. The moment a celebrity or a influencer stops producing content in social media, people forget about it. You cannot find it. But in Google, you can, yeah, at some point stop, and the articles will still bring you content as long as they're relevant. So,
Yeah.
excellent, nice. So, I'd like to ask you. So I guess for some of the people that perhaps they don't have the budget yet to hire somebody to hire them to help them with SEO. So, what are some of the key tips or things that they can start learning? I guess they can write some of the articles themselves, but how can they? But I guess like 3 or 4 quick tips so that your article ranks for a particular keyword in Google.
Well, you need to figure out what the customer is searching for. It
Mm-hmm.
can't just be random. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I'll search for something that I think is like what people want to know, and people are not looking for that at all. So you do need to have access to some type of keyword research tool, and they really vary. And I would recommend doing a basic SEO class. There's LinkedIn has some that are free, and HubSpot has some that are free. So learning a little bit about the keyword research and how to do it exactly, that would be a first step. And then trying to write an article from like what the reader wants to know. Because so Google really wants this, like, what they call it, useful content or something. So like if you were writing about the benefits of apples, like don't tell like some long story at the beginning of your grandmother's apple pie or whatever it is. The benefits of apples are like, and it needs to be very like answering the user's question right away. And so people want to be creative with writing, and Google doesn't really like that very much. So the more straightforward you can be, and the more you can think about the end reader, the better type of content you're going to create. Like, what are the questions that people have about this topic?
Of
so
course.
That's kind of my advice, is take some time to plan ahead. Don't just like start writing.
What are your thoughts on these articles when you search, when is the next season of My Favorite Show coming out, and you click on a page, it's loaded with ads, and it's just telling you everything about the story of the show and not really answering your question. They're tricking you to scroll and spend time there, right? So
right. I think that might go away now with this useful content thing. Hopefully, those are annoying when you go through and you're just like, or the secret you never knew about, I don't know who,
No, 100% agree. And I also think that Google in English is ahead of Google in other languages. So I'm Spanish, and sometimes when I search for a recipe in Spanish, I can see the difference. In English, you just get the recipe straight away, step by step. It's really useful, really relevant. I feel I got what I needed in record time. In Spanish, though, you get like this grammar story, how this like this whole block of text that is completely unnecessary. And all I wanted is to answer a question. So yeah, they'll probably be moving towards these in other languages, because I guess their algorithm knows what they can tell when people are frustrated. If they search for something and they thought they were going to get the answer, and then you're giving them something like a bit related but not really what they wanted. So would you say that people need to invest in some sort of expensive SEO software or tools if they need to get started, or can they get started for cheap?
I think that you can use some free tools. I don't know, is Uber Suggest still free? I think that was one that was free for a while. Neil Patel's one that you could start with. Or there's another one that's less expensive called Key Search, which is not as expensive as some of the other more like robust ones. I use SEMrush, and it's expensive, and I think it does more than I really need, to be honest with you. I just need to find those keywords and have an idea of what the search volumes are and that kind of thing. And it does a lot of extra stuff that I don't use at all. So, but I know how to use it. It gives me good results. I'll just
that's quite encouraging, because I guess if you're an expert on it, you're working on SEO every day, and even the more advanced softwares, they have plenty of features that you don't need. Then that means, I guess, that somebody that's starting out can probably do fine with some basic option, and even free sometimes. So it's excellent. Well, we're running a bit low on time, so I'm gonna do you want to say anything else before we end this, or
yeah, if you want to connect with me, is that okay if I say my
sure.
AnnaReisdorf.com is my website if you want to come over there. I have a very large Facebook group of dietitian writers called RDs Who Write. So if you want to connect with other dietitian writers, there's like over 5,500 dietitians in that group. Wow. And then you can follow me on Instagram, nutrition_writers. So those are all of my places.
Excellent. Yeah, and we'll put all of them in the show notes so that people can find them. And yeah, so it's been great chatting with you. I think that this can give people that perhaps had an interest in writing, and from an SEO and marketing perspective, they can give them a better understanding, and hopefully some of them are a bit more encouraged to enter this world or to up their game if they've been writing and haven't been very successful. So it's been great. I think this content is very informational, very valuable, and we're very grateful for you having shared it with us.
No problem. And I'm always happy to help anybody who wants just to know how to be a writer, or even how to improve their rankings and that kind of thing. So feel free to reach out.
That's amazing. It's great when you're working on something that you're passionate about, isn't it?
Yes, I love it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Anna. I'm gonna leave it there. This has been the Nutritionist podcast, and thank you all for listening. The Nutritionist podcast is sponsored by NutriAdmin, nutriadmin.com, which is software for nutritionists. And if you wanna check it out, you can use the code podcast50 to try it out with a discount. So this has been Anna Reisdorf. And thank you all.